Okay, so something else I want to talk about in this book is that Taylor talks about how we, in a history of our ideas, we've come across a very important ideal for us is the ideal of kind of disengaged reason and how it affects how we think in society today. Kind of our ideal thinking is almost thinking as though I don't have a body, as though I'm not in space and time, like I'm some kind of computer program and I can calculate things out rationally. So I want to put this on the side and ask you guys just a kind of strange question. If I said to you just on the street, I said, um, we really got to think about in order to change this nation. Let's say I want to change Japan, and I said, what we really got to do? We got to start thinking about what's best for everyone. We got to start implementing policies that are good for everyone. I'm just asking. I want to ask, would you know what I'm talking about? Would it make sense to you?
No.
No.
No. Yeah.
No. Um,
I wouldn't know which everyone.
yeah.
Usually when they say let's make policies that are good for everyone, it just means let's make policies that are good for me and my rich buddies. Usually. I wouldn't know how you would make policies that are good for everyone. Usually the policies are just compromises for everyone, right? Isn't that the best policy? Everyone makes a little bit of a compromise.
Mm.
Cutting my work hours, that'd be good for everyone.
Yeah.
Yeah. I kind of think, like, I like what you said. I figured you guys would say something like that. I just kind of think, I think a lot of people, when they think about what to do, they engage in kind of almost moral rationalism and think, how do we solve our political problems? How should we proceed? For example, how should our company proceed? How should the government proceed? How should we make policy? Well, that's easy. We should make policies that benefit everyone and not just benefit minority groups. And I think a lot of people, even though you're right, I mean, everything you said is right. Everything you said is exactly what I would say. But I think a lot of people just feel like, yeah, that's the answer. You're right. We have to make policies that benefit everyone. And, if that's not good enough for you, then, tough. You are the minority group. You got to tough it up and just kind of bend yourself toward this, with this state, which is a government that's beneficial for everyone. Don't you think? I don't know. I think a lot of people kind of think that's how to solve problems in the government, like just very unthinkingly. You know what I mean? Like just on a real, like, Joe Sixpack level, don't you think?
Yeah, I guess, like, okay, well, Lily, okay, I'll agree with that Joe Sixpack there then. Fine, like, okay, yes, you should do policies that are good for everyone, but I mean, that still doesn't mean anything, because sometimes the best policy for everyone can be to make one group better off than the others.
Oh yeah, I totally agree.
Well, I think this the reason why people are able to say this, and they think anyone who says this thinks the answer is obvious. What these policies that would be best for everyone is because what they're doing is they're imposing their own needs onto everyone else. So this is like how, I'm sure we've both seen this living in having a kind of a multicultural background. And, Japanese people will say, in Japan we do this, to refer to their own actions.
Yep.
Not that this is the standard, and vice versa. When things sparks fly between my wife and my mother, sometimes this ends up being, my mother says, well, I'm American, Americans do this. It's like, no, it's not. That's what you do. And my wife will say, I'm Japanese, Japanese do this. It's like, no, this is what you do. But they'll both hold their own actions up to a higher standard, as this is what everyone does. And I think that these people who say, hey, what we need is a policy that's good for everyone, they're holding their own experiences up to the same level of standard, applying it to everyone.
Ooh, I like that a lot. I think, yeah, people see themselves as individual universals a lot. Like, my experience is the whole experience. Um, well, okay. So I like your critiques of this. Like, what do you think? Like, when people say this, I think they kind of fall back on this really kind of unthinking definition of good. Like, what is good? Like, for example, I could say we got to make a policy that's good for everyone at this company, and I think most people would say would be like, oh well, okay, that means we need to improve the company's bottom line. In other words, we got to hack away the fat. We got to get rid of all these redundant positions. We got to get our employees motivated, and that's going to be good for everyone. Right? I think you could easily interpret it that way. But I mean, also, couldn't you just as easily interpret it like a policy that's good for everyone would be one where we increase our benefits packages? I mean, that would be a policy that's good for everyone. But I think people just naturally don't assume that that's the good. They assume the good is this company needs to make more money because that's what's going to be good for everyone.
So we have an aligned named concept of good.
Yeah, we've been kind of pushed into one concept of the good when we say what's good for everyone. And I mean, not that even like developing a policy that's good for everyone, if that's even possible. Let's leave that on the side. I think, but people just without thinking, they just assume that of course that's what's good for everyone. Of course, economic development is the company doing better will increase economic development, and that will also be for the good of everyone.
Yeah, I mean, I guess generally it's just kind of short-term economic utilitarianism.
Yeah.
But all of those together, short-term economic utilitarianism. It's always short-term, right? Because that's the problem of utilitarianism. You don't know what time span you're looking at the good of. So I mean, like maybe the best thing for the company is for everyone to get raises. I mean, like because that might in 20 years make the best company ever. You don't know that, right? So it's just short-term economic utilitarianism, which ends up actually in a lot of instances sinking a company because they just see the good as this immediate gain.
Yeah. But I kind of think so. Taylor brings this up in the context of when you have a society like ours, one of the pushes toward atomism of society, a push toward instrumental reason and the use of everything, is the fact that you have to manage extremely large groups of people or large multifaceted organizations, and you're kind of pushed in this direction to say, like, well, what's fair? What's going to benefit everyone? And then it's got to somehow appear objective, and then it's got to, I don't know, but I think just in our society it's worked out to be, what is, like you said, short-term economically effective for us.
People are more willing to jump on that bandwagon than they are to be like, well, if we treat our employees right 20 years down the line, we're going to have a killer team. Yeah. They don't care about that anymore. I mean, like they actually used to be the policy of some companies, or even some nation states used to be able to plan 100 years in the future. That doesn't seem possible anymore because it's economic short-term rationalism, right? It's utilitarianism.
Can I ask, what do you think? Why do people so easily jump on the short-term economic view? Is it just like we're just so? I mean, in our society, that's just common sense. It's treated as common sense.
Maybe I think you were hinting some before. Some of it is simply people only believe in numbers. Yeah. Like I don't when you try to do philosophy or sociology, sometimes people are always. And some of it's got to have numbers sometimes, but a lot of sometimes it doesn't. But a lot of people are like, "What'd you pull that out of your ass? Where'd you get that? Where'd you get that from?" There's no scientific data to back this at all, right? I mean, they're obsessed with numbers, and if anything you can't quantify in in some kind of number, like for example employee morale, well, screw that. That's not a number.
That's true.
Right?
Also, like even generating creativity among employees,
Right.
like I think that's going to be a problem Japanese companies will face. Like how you can't quantify it, but you need to get employees that are creative and have that time and that energy to be creative. But it's not something you can see per se. It's just something that kind of it's produced in a healthy environment.
Right now, we don't have the numbers to do that at any rate, right? Or we're not looking at those numbers, and we don't care about those numbers.
Mm,
I mean,
okay.
Okay.
Okay, I like that. I just thought that maybe this was just an example of the kind of disengaged reason he was talking about. Just this common sense, like we got to do what's best for everyone style of moral rationalism, which is really just an escape. I think it really is just self-deception to say we got to do what's best for everyone. It's begging the question. Well, what is best for everyone? It's just assuming common sense will give you the answer to all your problems.
I guess maybe you could say that when a society does fracture and you lose your sense of a common good, then the only thing you do have to rely on is numbers.
Yeah. I mean, maybe it's more like, yeah, here's some money, do whatever you can with it. That's all.
Because this is your God, right?
Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, if that's the only ideal you're ever going to have to live up to.
Yeah. I mean, then you just gotta just kind of take that cash and kind of create your own little life out of it, I guess, would be the best thing. But I mean, still, it doesn't answer questions about larger policies like environmental policies and things like this either.
Do those have numbers?
Now, we're very good at quantifying the environmental impacts.
Well, as long as the environmental impact is less than the amount of money that anyway, then we can just destroy as much as we want. No problem.
Oh, well.
But then again, you're left with like, what long-term strategy is this? Oh, sorry.
Actually, we do have there's a whole field called environmental accounting that, at least that is a fairly long-term minded field, because they just look at things like sustainability.
So yeah, okay. So maybe they're thinking in the longer term with that one, like maybe how the company might affect society in the long term.
Yeah.
I mean, you wonder if that sustainability program there because it makes I mean, which is fine if it just makes the company look good, or it's there only because that's more profitable. But either way, it's still both of them seem to still come down to profit, which is fine as long as the result is there, I guess. But it's still kind of funny to me.
That's what's going to motivate people in the long run, anyway. You always have to bring it back to themselves. So
the numbers, man, bring it back to the numbers.
Yeah, the numbers are pushing companies in a good direction. I don't think we can blame that.
And in Japan's case, even when they're not pushing companies in the right direction, we're still going to do it. Right?
All right, that's all I want to talk about with this one.
All right.